All right, all right. Here we are in Houston, Texas. We're launching a new podcast called Swimming with the Sharks. Here we are in my home office, and I got my buddy Colby here, who I'm calling a sidekick. He's trying to call himself a co-host, but he's not a co-host, of course. Then I got Robert here doing all the technicalities. You know, in this podcast, what we're going to do is we're going to have a lot of cool people come on, and we're going to do a lot of cool things. And on some of these people, when they come, you know, we're going to ask them questions that you would never expect that we might ask. But more importantly, and I think perhaps more fun, we're going to ask them things that they will not expect. Colby, what's up?
Excited to be here. First pod. Going to get some good stuff out of this, and we're ready to get going.
Colby, I'm not sure you're ready for prime time, buddy. But anyway, that's cool, Colby. I want to ask you, you know, we just got through the July 4th holiday, and I was down in Galveston, which is a place that I go often to hang out on the bay side. And I was watching the fireworks, and I was playing some patriotic music, and really just had a good time. The next day, I got up, and I thought it'd be a cool thing to do to go on a bike ride. So we go down, and we get to somewhere around 11 Mile Road. If you know Galveston, you know 11 Mile Road, and we're driving down through there, and I came upon this thing, Robert. This dog here. Now, I'm a dog lover. Let's be clear. I'm a dog lover, but you should not let your dogs run free, especially a vicious one like this. This thing, as I'm riding my bike, this thing comes out from some house, runs towards me, and literally I'm kicking at it, but still trying to keep from falling off my bike, and this thing takes a bite out of my leg. Show that picture of my leg, Robert. Look what this thing did to my leg. I mean, this thing had other pictures too. There's like 5 teeth punctured down into my leg, which caused this like ball, almost the size of a tennis ball, to swell up. And, you know, I don't know who I was madder at that damn dog or madder at the owner. I was lucky that the sheriff down there, Jimmy Fullen, helped me out, and we went to the clinic, and of course had to get a tetanus shot. Now I'm waiting to see if the damn thing has rabies. Note to self and note to all of you, if you got a dog like that, tie the damn thing up, keep it in the house, keep it in your yard. That's the law. So follow the law, and you won't have any problems. And then more importantly, the people around you won't have any problems. Colby, this podcast, we're going to do some things. I'm going to kind of what do you say, like benchmark or kind of signpost what we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do today is we're going to talk about victimization. See, because this is a good segue. This damn dog took a bite on my leg, and I could be a victim about it, but I'm going to try to turn that into something positive. We're going to do a segment that I like to call one of the good things, and what we're going to do is we're going to sponsor or call for sponsors for some of these segments. Today, we're going to talk about one of the restaurants in Houston that a lot of people really like, a place that a lot of people go for celebrations and so forth. We're going to do a little review, maybe not the type of review that you might be used to, Colby, maybe a different kind of review. Then we're going to talk about 8 of the, can I say shitty
cars,
shitty ass cars
that you wouldn't want to drive.
It's not that. I don't want anybody else to drive them. I don't want anybody else to drive. I'm never going to drive these 8 cars, but more importantly, I wish no one else would drive them. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about a case that I remember and something I learned from it. And then we have gotten a lot of emails and correspondence for our segment that we call Life Advice. Now, can you imagine if you'd looked back over the years and said, Tony Buzbee with his sidekick Cosby, sometimes I call him Cosby, is going to be giving life advice. People would say, well, you're out of your damn tree. But, well, I'm still in my tree, and I'm going to give some life advice. And I have one particular letter that we had that came in yesterday, and it's juicy. It's a little bit juicy. So let me just say it right up, because this is something that weighs on me all the time. It seems like to me in the United States that everybody, for some reason, whether who they are, where they come from, the color of their skin, what religion they're with, what group they're affiliated with, what their profession is. Everybody is looking to somehow distinguish themselves and be a victim. Well, I disagree with that. I am so tired of people who want to be a victim. Cosby, are you a victim?
Never the victim.
Never be the victim, Cosby.
Don't be the victim.
Don't be the victim, because when you're a victim, what do you tend to do when you try to pretend to be the victim? You want to blame others for your shortcomings. You exaggerate your problems like a little bitch. You're always seeking sympathy instead of just bucking the hell up and getting on about your business. You always want to avoid accountability, Cosby. Did you ever do that, Cosby?
Nope, I stand up for it.
Okay, I'm sure. And then instead of focusing inward on yourself and trying to do some sort of positive change, you want to blame all of your problems on everything outside of you instead of taking a little bit of time and looking inside, and probably can figure out that you might be the problem. But one thing I'm going to promise you is you're not the victim, because there's going to be some knucklehead in Galveston, and I know of one, that's going to allow his dogs to run free against city ordinances. And that dog is probably going to run out and bite somebody in the leg. I'm pretty sure that happened, because it happened to me. And I have two ways to take that. I can go around and say, oh, woe is me. Oh, I got bit by a dog. Oh, my goodness gracious, I'm not going to be able to go to work. I'm not going to be able to do this. And here's my excuse for not doing all the things that I know that I need to do, that my obligations. Or I can say, look, what's the positive? Well, one of the positives is we remind people, keep your dog pinned up. We remind people, be on the lookout when you're riding around Galveston, especially 11 Mile Road. And we take that and try to turn that into a positive, instead of feeling like we're somehow entitled to some kind of sympathy because of our life circumstance. Not everybody was born on third base, Cosby. Not everybody was born on third base and woke up and think they hit a triple, all right? No, a lot of us were born in the dugout without a baseball bat, without a glove, without fancy cleats, okay? So I'm just telling you, man. I mean, I'm just telling you, sometimes you got to pull yourself up, and you got to buck the hell up, and you got to say, I don't give a rat's behind what happens to me. I'm going to turn it into a positive, because I refuse to be a victim. End of story. I could go on and on about that, Cosby, but.
Well, I know you weren't being the victim, because I didn't even hear about it until about 3 days after the fact.
No, even Frances, who was riding about 50 yards behind me, she was like, "You're so calm." I said, "What do you want me to do? What do you expect me to do? Go bite the dog back?" I mean, dog was doing what it was. God, I guess God told it to do, and the owner's being a damn knucklehead. And I could let it ruin my whole day and my whole weekend, or I can go on about my business and go get the shot in my ass that I got. I had to get a tetanus shot. We are swimming with the sharks in this podcast, and one day when we have, we're going to bring on. We're not always going to have a guest. What we're kind of doing is kind of getting our sea legs, if you will. Cosby kind of
just feeling it out right
just
now.
feeling our way through it, and kind of getting ourselves situated and making sure that we know what we're doing. But we've already got some commitments from some guests. But when I get somebody like Rick Perry here, now of course we could go through his 14-year history as governor of the state, and people have done that. And we could go through his time as Secretary of Energy, or we could talk about his debate performance when he forgot the Department of Energy. We could do all that. I don't want to do that. That's been done. I want to talk to him about stuff that people haven't talked to him about, because that's an interesting cat. That's an interesting cat. And the same thing with Marcus Luttrell. If I get Marcus here, we can go through some things that people haven't asked him about, things that you might not really know about Marcus that I know because he's a friend of mine. Clay Walker, of course, we could talk about how many hits he has, and he's a country music singer, and he's from this place, and he's a Texan. Been there, done all that, Cosby, right? What we want to do is something a little different and talk about new things. Same thing with maybe Ronnie Killen, who's one of the great chefs of our area. I could talk to him about, hey, how do I build bark on brisket? Right. I mean, I've asked him about that already. I've been there, done that. I want to ask him about other things and some of the challenges that he's went through. But again, it's going to be unexpected to you, Cosby. It's going to be unexpected to you. And more importantly, it's going to be unexpected to our guests. So don't be a victim. You decide if you're a victim. No matter what happens to you, you can choose not to be a victim, and you shouldn't be one. We have had several people who have several businesses that have contacted us about wanting to sponsor our show or sponsor certain segments. And, I'm kind of on the fence on that, Cosby.
We haven't just had businesses and not just local businesses. We actually had a plastic surgeon from New York City reach out to us today.
What does he want us to do?
He wants to sponsor a segment on the show.
That's cool.
Plastic surgeon.
Maybe we'll. We just got to be. Francis told me, "Say, look, Tony, don't just take any sponsor because it's not like the show needs the money, right? But we want the money, but we don't need the money. But we want to do sponsors that are consistent with the theme of our podcast because we're podcasters.
Potential spotters are going to be vetted.
Yeah. And let me say, and I just want to get this cleared up because I know before the show we started, because we're swimming with the sharks, Colby, you kind of fancy yourself kind of a shark, I guess.
I swim behind the big shark.
Yeah, well, I think you're kind of like one of those, you got the big thing swimming, which would be me, and then there's like a little thing stuck on him, like that. But you may not see yourself that way. Don't be a victim.
Right.
You may see yourself as like the shark swimming in front of this shark, which is, God bless you. I hope you see yourself that way. But I'm going to say this. You're not the host.
That's clear.
Okay. And you're not the co-host.
But close.
You're kind of like a sidekick.
Okay.
But there's been a lot of like Batman and
Robin.
Superman and okay, forget that one.
There's some good sidekicks out there.
Lone Ranger and
I don't know Lone
Tonto.
Ranger.
See, nobody remembers the sidekick, Colby, so you better move yourself up into co-host as soon as you can. Anyway, this segment is sponsored by The Patriot. The Patriot. Now, y'all all know that I do not drink alcohol. I don't drink it, but this drink was almost wiped out by the Lieutenant Governor. But now we're back in business, baby. You can find this on the shelves at Specs. You can find it at Total Wine. You can find it, hopefully, in a grocery store very soon. We have a distributor. It's being distributed. We're working with Eighth Wonder Brewery, folks. This is a Delta 9 drink. It's a hemp-derived product. It's absolutely natural. It only has about 20 calories, 30 calories per can. It doesn't get you all loopy and weird, but what it does is it kind of relaxes you a little bit. So you come home from a long day, you sit in your easy chair. Instead of drinking beer, that's not good for you. It's got a lot of calories. Alcohol is poison. Instead of doing some of the other weird stuff that some of you do, you can try this drink. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you won't. I bet you like it. And one of these right here will set you right. No hangovers, clear head the next day. This drink, I recommend it highly. It's called The Patriot. Veteran founded, i.e. me. I'm the veteran here. And this one's America flavored. And it's a little... Colby, do you like it?
I love The Patriot.
Well, I know you love Patriots, but do you like the drink Patriot?
I think it's a perfect golf course drink.
Yep,
you put a little bit of that with some Gatorade on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah. Some people actually drink alcohol with this.
Yeah.
Some people mix this with vodka. I don't drink alcohol, but everybody that tries this loves it. Everybody loves it. So Patriot is sponsoring our segment about one business here in Houston, a restaurant that I think I've been going to since I was literally a lawyer in my first year. It's moved locations, but now it's over on Richmond. I think it's been on Richmond for many years now, but it's called Tony's. Obviously, maybe you thought I was going to talk to you about some kind of restaurant that no one ever heard of. Certainly, you've heard of Tony's. If you're from out of town and you're visiting Houston and you want quintessential Houston food with an Italian flair, Tony's is the place to be. You might go in there, you might think, hey, it's a little bit stuffy. The truth is, you can wear a suit, you can wear a jacket like I'm wearing now, or you can go in there, as long as you're not wearing shorts, you can go in there, you can go to the bar. They have a really cool bar in there, and check it out. Kennedy is the bartender there. She is spot on, and she does mocktails, and she does all kinds of drinks. They have great champagne. They have a whole flight now of caviars. Donna, still running the show. Her and her husband started Tony's a long time ago. Now Chef Kate has come in. I think she's a partner in the business, and Chef Kate has kind of brought a kind of a new energy into Tony's, and it's a great place. And if you go there, in addition to the caviar, I know it's expensive, and that's one of those things you don't do all the time. Like I do, but don't do it all the time. But the pastas there are spot on. The pastas are amazing, and so if you go there, I bypass the steak. You can get a steak at Papa's. You can get a steak at Steak 48. You can get a steak. You can get steak from Killen's. Get the pastas. It's an Italian restaurant, and they do pastas the right way. What say you? You like Tony's?
I like Tony's. We went there for the holiday party. Went there after the big TNT case.
Yep.
And I think their famous dessert is the baked Alaska.
No. They're famous. Now, they will do that.
Yeah.
But they're famous. I'm glad you mentioned that. Their famous dessert is their souffle. Okay. So it's one of those things like you need to order it right when you come in because it takes them 20 or 30 minutes to do the souffle, and they do it. I mean, they do it right. So I'm glad you mentioned that. But baked Alaska. I mean, I love baked Alaska. It's a thing that's hard to find in the city of Houston.
Cool dish. Got to do it right.
Yeah.
Tony's does have a cool bar. They do a good job of separating it from the restaurant.
You remember that you and I were in Tony's when we won that $640 million verdict
with our boy Piggy.
Oh yeah, pretty cool. Cool.
Good stuff.
Okay, well, we're gonna transition, and this is something that you've probably been waiting on because look, I drive these roads. Colby, I know you drive these roads, and you fancy yourself a guy that likes all the fine things, like a bunch. Are you Gen Z?
I'm right on the edge.
Whatever it is, it's out of my strike zone. But anyway, you fancy yourself, and I know you were super, super, super stoked when you got your G-Wagon. oh, look, he got a G-Wagon. Look at him, he's in a G-Wagon. I mean, I see this G-Wagon bullshit on Instagram and all these pretend millionaires driving G-Wagons. This is a G-Wagon. I want to use the G-Wagon as a segue into the top 8 cars that I can't frickin' stand, with the G-Wagon near the top of the list. In fact, I'm going to put the G-Wagon at the top of the list. It's a pretend car. It's a box. It's loud. It has no insulation. It would probably roll over. And it's a silly status symbol. I saw recently that they say as soon as you buy this car, it loses its value. And I don't know if any of that's true because I did look that up the other day, like which cars lose their value the fastest. And G-Wagon actually wasn't on the list. So maybe that was more misinformation on Instagram. But it did have G-Wagon as losing 30 or 40% of its value immediately.
I think you saw a bogus post.
Well, I don't care. Okay? If I think it's true in my mind.
Okay.
And so I don't like the G-Wagon. I don't give a shit if you tell me it keeps its value. I don't like it. Okay? And I'm not going to go so far as to say I don't like people that drive G-Wagons.
Right.
Because there's too many people that do, and I'm sure there's few of them that I like, including my brother-in-law, including you,
right,
that drive these damn things. But I don't like them, and I don't think Robert likes them. Robert's showing, that's why he has hundreds of pictures of them, because he wants to blow them up like I do. So I'm putting G-Wagon as the number one thing on that list. The second one is...
That's brutal.
Fuck the G-Wagon. Anyway, the next one I'm putting on there is something called the Make. Is it Macan or Macon?
I think
damn thing.
A car like that, it doesn't matter.
Every soccer mom in Houston and every knucklehead that's in front of me on any road in Houston drives one of these damn things. And it took me like 4 months to even know what the hell they were. Like, what is that ugly thing? It's a Porsche. The only Porsches I ever knew people drove were bald-headed fat men. And now all of a sudden you got soccer moms and people taking their kids to Kincaid and their little private schools and all that stuff. I don't like this car. Okay, I don't like it. It makes number 2 on my list because of that. The next one is the Grand Cherokee. You know what pisses me off? That's what it looks like now? I don't like the Grand Cherokee. I've always thought it was a freaking pretend Jeep. It always were pretending to be off-road. You wouldn't take that piece of shit off-road. There's no way. It's like you may as well take a Rolls Royce off-road. But you at least have a smoother ride if you're in a Rolls Royce and get stuck off-road. But that thing, the brand is worn out. If I were the CEO of Jeep, I would say end that brand, end it now. I don't care how the sales are. It sucks. And it's not really a Jeep. It's a Grand Cherokee. Like, and look at that, taking over Native American words. Why hasn't that been canceled yet?
I'll agree with you on the Cherokee. I mean, it's clearly not an off-road vehicle. It's not a Bronco. It's not a real Jeep, but it's no luxury SUV.
Can we agree that it should be canceled?
It should be canceled.
Just for the name only, Cherokee.
And
it's trying to. What do you call it when you take somebody else's culture?
I'm not
appropriate.
Sure.
It's trying to appropriate entire Native Americans. Cancel it like you canceled the Washington Redskins. Cancel it. Okay, it's gone. This is a little pet peeve of mine. There are some young lawyers, or maybe older lawyers, or maybe people that are in private equity and all this other stuff that they're in, and they go to the Four Seasons and they drink wine, and they sit around. They toast their victories, and it's like an echo chamber. You're great. Oh, you're great. Oh, you're great. You're great. And they drive Maseratis. A Maserati is an entry-level car. All right, it's almost like don't be a victim. Don't drive a Maserati unless you are an entry-level guy, okay? You've heard it from me first. The only people that drive a Maserati, Colby, and don't even look at that because I see you looking at the picture and thinking, oh, I could see myself in that with my white suit on. The only people that drive a Maserati are people that can't afford a Ferrari. I said it. Okay, it's been said. And there's a caveat to that, or there's like a corollary to that, and that is people that drive Bentleys. You see these people, oh, look at me in my Bentley. Ooh, I'm going into Tanglewood. Ooh, here I am driving my Bentley. Ooh, I'm going to tailgate that person. They're not going to say anything because I'm in my Bentley. No, bullshit, I'm going to say something because Bentleys are just an entry-level car to a Rolls-Royce. If you can't afford a Rolls-Royce, don't buy a Bentley.
What's more offensive to you, the Bentley or the Maserati?
Ooh, those are pretty offensive, but I guess probably the Maserati. Because the Maserati is just a worthless car. I mean, Ferrari. If you ever driven a Ferrari, they're a little bit overrated. And you get in a Ferrari, and you're like, "Ooh, look, I got a Ferrari." And then you figure out you got the worst streets in America, and the thing's loud, and you can't hear your radio, and you're going to blow out a tire, or you're going to hit your bumper on something. Right. So you're in a Maserati, and then you're in a Ferrari, and then you're in a Maserati, and you got all those things too, and you're a shitty car.
Right.
So there you go. All right, this is where it gets real personal to me. This is where it gets personal. When I see one of these cars, this thing right here, since the day it came out, a PT Cruiser. P stands for bullshit. I freaking hate these cars. I can barely even look at this car without wanting to retch. That is the ugliest car that drives on the road. And let me just go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and take it a step further. Anybody that drives that car is not going to win a beauty contest. That's a nice way to say what I'm saying about the PT, and especially a purple one. And that's what most of them are. They're purple. And you see that car and you're driving down the road because you're trying to get to work and you're trying to make a living and you're trying to get your kid here and there. You're trying to go meet a friend or whatever you're doing. And you see a PT Cruiser and the first thing you're thinking is, they still make this piece of shit? I thought that was... And the second thing you're thinking is, what kind of fool drives that? And then you start trying to look into the window to see what the person looks like so it confirms your bias that you already have.
I mean, they're so ugly, they're almost dangerous because you're taking your eye off the road, looking over there, wondering who's driving.
Only thing I'm wondering, because I already know how ugly they are, I'm only wondering who's driving it so I can judge them.
And that's what I'm looking at. What is going on in somebody's mind to want to buy one of those things?
I think they're on their last leg. I think they must be on their last leg. I don't know what's going on with them, but I wish them the best. But they need to stop driving that car because it's. I mean, if there was a way that I could crush those cars without hurting anybody, I would do that because I hate those cars. I mean, I just kind of want to take as many as I can and take them to my ranch and run over them with a tank. That would be fun. Okay, this is the last one, and maybe the truth is maybe this list was flipped, right? So maybe
Right.
maybe
G-Wagon not as
it could
offensive
be
once we go through
because
this
I'm
list.
I'm seeing now that a lot of my emotional response is coming more in the end of the list to the PT Cruiser because my emotional response is even getting greater as we get ready to even mention this car, and it's called the Nissan Cube. It's the Nissan Cube. Um, I don't know about the Nissan Cube.
It's hardly a vehicle.
I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is. I think I remember the advertisement for the Nissan Cube, and it was like, chunk, 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 and they had an animal riding in it.
It had the hamster, I
Yeah,
think.
and now you see them down the street, and they have the windows tinted because they're smoking dope in there. Because the only person that rides that car is somebody that's going to smoke dope. It's true.
That's true.
I guarantee you, when they open that door, a bunch of marijuana rolls out of that thing. And if I'm just telling all the cops in Houston, you should stop this car.
It's the ultimate hot box.
When you see this car, stop it. You will get an arrest. You will. I guarantee. You see this car, there will be an arrest because they're going to open the door and it's going to permeate with marijuana and some other stuff that they're smoking in there. So that car again needs to be canceled. And since we're on the subject of cars, Colby, any car that has a modified exhaust of any sort, there's a special place in hell for people that have a car and God bless them, they want to make their car better. But somehow there's some little screw loose in their head. And they think they can make their car better by one of three ways. One, they can tint the windows black. Two, they can put chrome rims on it or some kind of rims on it. Or three, and this is where it hits me. They modify the exhaust. And then they got a car that literally has 150 horsepower. And they're I mean, that car is so weak that you could probably put your hand over the tailpipe and kill the motor. That's how much compression they really have. But they zipping down the freeway. And I just wish that I had a bazooka. And when they zip by, just don't pretend like you don't feel this way too.
No, the exhausts are ridiculous, and you're right. They're always on cars that are just terrible.
Right. It's like, dude, you are not improving your car by doing that. You're making yourself look like a fool, and you're bothering everyone around you.
You're bothering everyone around you. If you have a nice car, you don't think to add the exhaust. You only add the exhaust if you have a bad car. I'd agree with that.
Yeah. One of the interesting things that we're going to talk about when we get Governor Rick Perry on the show is ibogaine. The state of Texas allocated, I think, $50 million to study ibogaine, because ibogaine is supposedly a controlled substance, but it's really just a naturally occurring psychedelic. And I don't think they even like to call it a psychedelic, but it's a drug that's been used for hundreds and hundreds of years for people who have trauma. And now it's being studied for brain issues, Parkinson's. It's being studied for Alzheimer's. And it's being studied specifically for PTSD and also drug addiction. There's some people in Mexico who have been providing those types of treatments to service members, people that have really been in the shit, if you will, people that have really seen some serious combat, special operators and such. And they've had people that to try to prevent suicide, addiction, alcohol and drug addiction. And they've had a lot of success, and Rick Perry saw that and has kind of led the charge in the United States and was very integral, him and a couple other people, in convincing the legislature to allocate money to study this drug to hopefully help a lot of people. So that's one of the things when we have Governor Perry on the show we're going to talk about. And the reason it hits home for me is because I actually went down to Mexico and I actually did the ibogaine treatment. And I got to tell you, it is a life-changing thing. And so when we have him on, we'll talk about when he did it, and we'll talk about when I did it, because he was actually there when I did it. And we'll talk about some few more examples of the success stories coming from this drug called ibogaine. I encourage you to look it up, Google it, look at the work that's being done in the state of Texas with regard to ibogaine and some of the benefits that it's been proven for people with PTSD, specifically with our service members. Anything we can do for service members who have almost made the ultimate sacrifice and have sacrificed their mental health, in some cases their family, and we know many sacrifice themselves with suicide when they come back. We want to try to do that, study that, and make sure that it's something that's safe and effective, and something that might help these folks. And that's why I like the Patriot so much. Is the Patriot, we don't make any weird health claims, but when you compare Delta 9 and small dose Delta 9 which is THC, and you compare that with alcohol, there's no comparison. I mean, alcohol ruins people's lives. It just ruins your life, and it's addictive. And this drink here is not. So I look forward to that discussion with Rick Perry and a few other things that we'll come up with. The next segment, Colby, is called "Remember a Case." How are we doing on time? We
30 minutes.
So we're about halfway through the show, and usually about halfway through the show, we're gonna talk about a previous case. And one of the cases that you hear about, the Diddy case, and you hear about Shannon Sharp, and you hear about Andrew Tate, and you hear about the Astroworld case. You hear about the Chris Brown case. These are all cases that, of course, that I have handled, and those get a lot of publicity. But those cases are certainly important and certainly newsworthy, and certainly require a lot of work and world-class lawyers on both sides. But I want to talk to you about a case that you probably have not heard about. Many of us in the Houston region, our electricity provider is a company called CenterPoint. CenterPoint is also a gas provider as well. But if you get your electricity in the Houston area, you're probably getting it from CenterPoint. CenterPoint has, I think, 1 million or more electricity poles. Obviously, they have substations, they have transformers, they have electricity lines and poles. And one of the big issues in Texas and basically in the South right now is that because all of our poles are not buried, that they're all of our electric lines are not buried, they're on poles. Every time we have a storm of some sort, we have power outages, and that's a huge issue going on right now. And there's allegations against CenterPoint that you're not doing enough to harden your system. You're not doing enough to make sure that there's not as many stoppages and not as many outages. But I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on a case with regard to CenterPoint that happened about 10 years ago. And Colby, this was before your time. 10 years ago, how old were you?
10 years ago, I was 19.
Oh my God.
Not even in law school yet.
No, you were wet behind the ears. You probably didn't even know how much you didn't know.
Didn't know anything.
Ago. It's one of those, you didn't know what you didn't know. Well, let me tell you, 10 years ago, there was two little kids, about 6 and 8, I think, a little girl, a little boy, and they were playing in their backyard in one of the suburbs in the Houston area. And they had an electricity pole, the yard was fenced, and there was an electricity pole in the corner of the yard. And if you've seen electricity poles, of course, you've seen those wires that come down at like a 45-degree angle. Those are support wires. They're called guy wires, okay? And there's just steel wires. They're connected at the top of the pole, and they're anchored into the ground. And what they do is they support the pole. Well, unbeknownst to the family, CenterPoint had a problem with these guy wires breaking free at the ground. And you can imagine why they might break free. A lawnmower hits them, or they rust free, or something runs over them and causes the support cable to break free from the anchor in the ground. And it lets the guy wire just hang freely. Well, unbeknownst to the family that I'm referring to and these two little kids, the way that they installed the guy wires and the lack of insulation at the top of the guy wire allows that when it was no longer at a 45-degree angle, that it would fall free after being broken free from the ground, it would connect and contact the electricity at the top, which would energize the guy wire. So these kids are out there playing, dad's in the garage, mom is in the kitchen. It's just a normal day. It's just a normal American family having a normal American day. And all of a sudden, the mom hears something go, wow, just a huge explosion. She looks out her kitchen window and she sees her daughter writhing on the ground. And she sees smoke and fire, both of her children on fire. Well, you can only imagine her response, and the dad in the garage heard it too, and they both run to the backyard, and the little boy is just screaming bloody murder, and the electricity had entered his body, and it came out at his knee, which blew his leg off, and the little girl was literally, her heart had stopped beating. The good news is that the father worked at one of the plants, and he was one of the plant managers. And so he was very good about teaching all of his people CPR, and of course he knew CPR as well. And he had to give his daughter CPR and saved his daughter's life. By the time he got her heart back beating, the life flight landed literally on the street in front of their house and took his two children away. They went to the burn unit. They were in the burn unit. I think the burn unit in Galveston, and as that progressed, the father was very technically oriented. He was like, "How the hell would it be possible for a guy wire?" Now, even a guy wire, you wouldn't let your kid play with it. So he was like, I've always told the kids stay away from the guy wire, and I knew it was loose, right? And I'd called them multiple times, like, "Hey, this guy wire," but because it was a guy wire, the electric company, CenterPoint, said, it's not a danger. It's a support mechanism. The pole ain't going to fall over. There's two more guy wires on either other sides of it. We'll eventually get out there. Well, they didn't, and the thing had broken free and was just hanging there, and it contacted the electricity. So I ultimately was hired. One lawyer was hired in town who sent the case to me, and we started really delving into CenterPoint and the way CenterPoint did its business and what they knew and when they knew it, and what they knew the danger could be, and what previous events had occurred. And ultimately, we got to a point where we had them backed in a corner, pants down. I mean, we had them. But the point was of these lawsuits is not to like, hey, let's score another victory. It's more like, what can we do now to help these kids have some normalcy in their life? This girl who her father had revived her was burned. I want to say 50% of her body, not in her face, but it was mostly from chest down. And the little boy was burned on his lower extremities very badly, and had to get a prosthetic. And we had a prosthetic specialist, and we had just a whole team of doctors who were working with that young man. And the truth is, the fact that those kids were kids actually was a positive, because kids heal faster than older people, certainly faster than elderly people. And a kid can learn to use a prosthetic a lot quicker than maybe an older person or somebody who's been walking around like I have for more than 50 years. This kid at some point was literally running in the backyard with his prosthetic, happy as a lark, doing somersaults and so forth. I mean, he made a great recovery. So we were able to get those children the money that they needed, so they get the care they needed, and more importantly, the future care they needed, because as a child who has third-degree burns grows, their skin begins to stretch as their body grows, and they need surgery after surgery after surgery after surgery, literally up until past their puberty and past their growing, and even later in their lives. So we were able to get them the money they needed to take care of their future surgeries. But the story doesn't end there, Colby. The story doesn't end there, because that would be a good story there. That would be a story where, okay, there was a tragedy. We did the best we could. We tried to turn it into something that was, as positive as we can be. We can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again, but But we can try to put him back together again and try to. We're not going to make his body the way it was before, but at least we can make him functional and going about his business. But the story doesn't end there. One of the things this family was absolutely fixated on was that this should never happen again. Never again. And you hear that a lot, like, oh, we're filing this case and we're pursuing this because we don't want this to happen. This family was serious about this. They didn't just get, dumped a whole ton of money on top of them and say, okay, for that thing, that doesn't really matter. No. The money that was important. That was important for these children's future. But what was most important for this family, and I still think about them to this day, it's been 10 years, I still think about them, is that both mom and dad were insistent that this not happen again. And so what does that mean? That means that every single electric pole that CenterPoint owned and operated had to be retrofitted. Every single one. It was almost 1 million electrical poles. Now, when you compare that, what they spent and the effort they went to on retrofitting and putting the proper insulation on those guy wires up topside versus what they paid those children for their future care. We're talking about 70 years of care. Obviously, those are two big pots of money. But the one that was most meaningful, I think, in the long, because these kids are going to be fine, as fine as they can be. Obviously, you as a young child, you go through your life with scars. You're in gym, you're in swimming, you're at the beach, you're here, you're there. You can't be in the sunlight. I mean, it's very impactful to that child's life. Obviously, if you're wearing a prosthetic, as you grow, you have to change out prosthetics every 6 months, maybe even more often when you're growing like that. So don't let me minimize that. But meaningful to me is that will never happen again. And so there won't be 2 more kids playing in their backyards whose lives are completely turned upside down, who turns upside down their family's life and turns upside down the parents' life. That won't happen again, at least not that way. It won't. So those of you who are out there and you're saying, these damn lawyers, all they do is get rich and all they do is do this and they do that. Colby, you ever said that?
I don't say that.
Okay.
I'm on the right.
Why wouldn't you say that, Colby? Why wouldn't you say that? Anyway, point is, all bullshit aside, all foolishness aside, sometimes we have an opportunity to do something positive like that. That's more than just about money. Sometimes it's about doing something right, something that the legislature would have never done, something that the governor would have never done, the president would have never done, the AG would have never done. But those 2 little kids did that. They did that. And more importantly, their parents did that, because their parents could have just taken the money and said, we're not interested in that. Whatever you're going to spend on that, give it to us and give it to these kids. No, that was very important that change be made. And how do I know it was made? About 1.5 years later, I'm getting in my car. And I live probably an hour from this family that I was talking about. And there was a CenterPoint crew with a contractor right next to my house. And they said, hey, we got to access your pole. And I watched them. I said, well, I won't go to work right now. Let me watch what they're up to. And they spent the time and they installed the insulation. And I said, look at that. We did something good. So there's a lot of stories like that we may have. And the segment is called I Remember a Case. If you want to sponsor that segment, email us and we'll let you sponsor that statement. That's a good segment because it's about doing something positive. Cosby, tomorrow morning, let me ask you something. What kind of day would you have tomorrow morning if you woke up and you did your prayer, your routine, or whatever you do, meditation, or maybe you just get up and go to the gym, or maybe you get up and eat a crispy donut. Hell, I don't know what you do. Maybe I'll ask you one day. But right now I'm not interested enough to even ask. But what if you, tomorrow morning, said, today I'm going to find somebody to do something nice for? And so what if you went about your whole day looking for somebody to do something nice for? Imagine what your attitude about the day would be versus what it would be otherwise. Because I know working for me is kind of a pain in the ass. And I know that I can be kind of hard. and I can be a little rough around the edges with you guys, and I'm pretty demanding. And I'm not really interested in hearing why you can't do something. I'm more interested in hearing that you're in process of doing it. But what if so instead of worrying about all that, what if tomorrow you woke up, and what if tomorrow you woke up and you sat there in your chair before you put on your shoes, or right as you're putting on your shoes, and you said to yourself, today I'm going to do something good. Maybe it might be, hey, I got $20 here. Today I'm going to find somebody to give this $20 to. Or maybe you said, today I'm going to be on the lookout for somebody that needs a kind word, and I'm going to give them a kind word. Whatever it is. I mean, you're only limited by your creativity, but if you did that, I wonder what kind of day you would have versus the day that you would have otherwise. What do you think?
Probably have a better day.
I bet you would.
You'd be excited.
I bet you would.
You'd be thinking about who you're going to talk to, what you're going to say.
Yeah, and as much as we always forget it, doing something good for somebody else always makes us feel a lot better. There's an ultimate truth there somewhere. There's a truth hidden in that. Okay, so we and get your Gen Z question ready, because we're gonna end this with the Gen Z question.
That's ready.
But here is the segment that I think most people will probably looking to hear. This is called Life Problems.
Okay.
And we have an email address that's called, what is it called? Buzbee Life Problems.
Buzbee lifeproblems@gmail.com.
Buzbee lifeproblems@gmail.com. And somebody said, "Oh, Tony, your email address is not professional." I don't give a rat's ass about the email address. You send the email, I receive the email. Okay, that's all I care about. Now, we may change the email, but that's a different issue.
It's not because of her opinion.
No, it's not her opinion. No. Okay, so we got this. Okay, listen to this. Just listen carefully, and then I wish we could put this to music, Robert. If there's a way you could put this to music, Robert, because this is a sad, sad story. 3 months ago, I went on a business trip, a 3-day trip. On the first night, I went out for drinks with some of my coworkers. While out, a man started flirting with me, and I liked the attention. My husband has always been loving and supportive. He's handsome. He's in incredible shape. He constantly compliments me. I don't know why I felt so gratified by this random guy, but I did. After way too many drinks, I went with him to his apartment, and we had sex. Immediately afterwards, I realized what I had done, and I left. I cut my part in the work trip short, saying I felt ill, and I went home immediately. I immediately confessed to my husband. I told him everything. I offered to answer all of his questions. Let me just mark that right there. He just said he needed to go for a walk, and when he came back, he just asked me if I liked it. I was honest with him. I didn't. It was fumbly, drunk sex with a man that clearly didn't care if I enjoyed it. This guy's nowhere near as good as my husband is. I told my husband all of this. He just stood there looking at me and told me he needed to go out for a bit to think, and he left again. He was gone for a couple of hours and finally stumbled back through the front door really drunk. He could barely speak. That's how drunk he was. This has now become a common theme since it happened. He's gone from drinking maybe 3 times a month at the most to drinking every night. And not just drinking, but getting blackout drunk and passing out either in our backyard or on the couch. He started smoking cigarettes again. He had already quit 2 years ago. I need help. Do you have any advice? Cosby. I'm going to start with the obvious. Drinking never leads to anything good. Now, that's, of course, one of those I told you so things, and that's one of those, telling somebody to close the barn door after the cow's already gotten out. All right. This lady is obviously asking for information and for help now that she has transgressed. Right. And the problem is trust is something that once it's broken, it's very hard to repair. And clearly her husband is doing what he can to try to process something that's a major blow to him. It's a blow not only to the trust he had with his wife, it's a blow to his ego. Let's be honest. I mean, men have egos in the relationship with their wives, and men want their wives to desire only them. And it's just a standard in our society, like it or not. I don't make the rules. I'm just telling you what they kind of are. Is that I don't do this, but a lot of men look at other women, comment about other women. Maybe they don't do it in front of their spouse, but maybe do it with their other buddies in the locker room, or they do it on the golf course, or they do it, out at bars. But they never want to fathom that maybe their wives do the same thing, or their significant others do the same thing. And so they never want to hear about that. They never want to hear. They never even want to think that there's ever a person out there that their wife or their spouse or their significant other would desire more than them. But reality check, boys. There are. Women are no different than men. Women are no different than men. They talk amongst themselves about, the hot guy in their neighborhood, the widow guy in their neighborhood. That they do the same kind of thing that men do. Hopefully they're respectful about it. Hopefully men are respectful about it. But that's all beside the point. This goes a lot deeper than that. This woman did something that is a major blow to the trust and the bond that she had with her husband and to his ego. So he's fighting a couple of battles here. First off, he's wondering, could he ever trust her again, because she went out and drinking and her inhibitions were down, and clearly there was something in there, something about her that she didn't, that even though she claims that her husband complimented her all the time and she claims he filled all of her needs, there was some need there that wasn't being fulfilled. Because whatever's in you is in you, and just drinking just kind of lets it come out. And so it seems to me, if there's a way to put this back together, the first thing she's going to have to do is show a change, specifically in drinking, because she needs to take away that issue where he doesn't think, next time you drink, you're going to get drunk again and do something stupid. Because when you get hurt like that, you don't want to get hurt again. And it's going to take a long time, if it's possible. It's going to take a long time for this man to recover from that and then build trust back with her. And the only way you build trust, it doesn't happen overnight. You lose trust overnight, it takes years to build that trust. So the first question is once he gets over his dealing with this, which is doing the wrong thing, going towards alcohol, because alcohol doesn't solve anything. You get drunk, you get sober, and guess what? You're in the same position you were the day before, just you have a headache. He's going to have to decide to address this himself, and then they're going to have a heart-to-heart where she's going to say, I'm going to do the following things different. They're going to have to do couples counseling, and then they're going to have to make a hard decision. Am I willing to stay in this relationship long enough for this man to build back the trust that he had with me? I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to that. You know what the easy answer would be? When you saw yourself having those kinds of, first off, you shouldn't be drinking to a point where you're being a fool, where all your inhibitions are gone, that you're doing things that you just simply can't recover from. But laying that aside, this kind of situation is typically a relationship ender. And wouldn't it be great, Colby, if I could say, oh, it's going to be okay. Oh, it's a minor oversight. Oh, you're going to have to make some serious life changes. That includes cutting alcohol out of your life completely. You're going to have to go to him and say, I want to do everything. Tell me what I need to do to build the trust back. And he still may say, I don't want that. He still may say, I don't want that. And if he does, it's all your fault. Colby? Generation Z. Are you Generation Z?
I'm Gen Z. Some people say that the last millennial would be 30 now, and I'm 29, so I'm first Gen Zer.
Why do I really have an issue with Gen Zers? You know what? I see a lack of hard work ethic. I see a lack of this ain't a riff on Gen Zs, but let me riff a little bit. I see a lack of persistence, and I see a victim mentality. I really do. And I want you to succeed, Colby. I want you to succeed. So this is the segment where you get to ask a question from Gen Z's perspective.
Okay. I think I'm going through this. I think a lot of Gen Zers are going through this. The thought of buying your first house. So me, as someone who's never owned a house, I've always rented, asking somebody who's owned many, many houses, I would ask your advice on, should you get a house as soon as you can, but maybe it's not your the best home or dream home, or should you wait a couple years, save up a little bit more money, and then get a house you're really proud of and you want to live in for a long time?
Let me break that down. First off, there's these idiots on Instagram who say, I don't own my house. I just rent. I take that capital and I put it into X, Y, and Z. You know the idiots I'm talking about.
I know
the ones that, there's lots of those idiots on Instagram that talk about that. But I still believe that home ownership is the American dream. If you have nothing else, you have your home and you have the homestead protection. So if anything bad goes down, the state cannot take your house. They cannot take your car. There's those protections. And so I think anybody who has the ability to buy a piece of property don't tell me that the interest rates are too high. Don't tell me that the prices are too high. You can sit around and twiddle your thumbs and wait and wait and wait and wait for the interest rates to be right, for you to have enough to buy the kind of house you want, or for the house prices to go down. And it's kind of like this couple that say, we're going to have a kid when we feel like we're ready. No. If you really are committed to building a family, build a family. And the same is true with buying a house. My advice to you is buy a house. Go buy a house that you can comfortably afford and start putting your money into the equity of that house. Because why spend it on rent unless you're some kind of fabulous investor, which my guess is, Cosby, you're not, because what you're doing every day is getting up and working for people that you represent. You're not getting up and studying the markets and doing this and doing that. No. So buy a house. And you're never going to buy, I'm sitting on River Oaks Boulevard in this great office, one of the great houses of Houston, and I'm still always looking at other houses saying, oh, maybe that house is better. Oh, maybe that house is better. That's how it's always going to be for people that have an active mind. Buy what you can afford. Buy something you're going to be happy with. Buy something that you can call your own. And at some point, when you're more successful or things are different for you financially, and you're ready to make a jump and move into another house, you're already in the game. It's all just, I always say it's always better to do something rather than do nothing. Because if you do nothing, that's a choice. Because a lot of people say, I don't know. I don't want to make the choice. I don't want to make the choice. By making no choice, you've made a choice. That's a choice too, a choice to do nothing. And I always say, do something. You can always adjust. Let's say you buy a house that you turn out like, oh, this house really ain't working for me. It ain't working for me. It's not what I really wanted. Well, you got some equity. You put money into this house, and now when the time is right for you, you can jump to another house. And it's just, it's part of growing up. And I bought my first house when I got out of the Marines. I'd saved up $12,000, and I bought a house in Webster. And it's the best thing ever, right? And I was on payments, and I had never taken any leave in the Marine Corps, so I had built up like almost 3 months of paid leave, basically. And so, I was able to make the payments, and I was able to make the payments throughout law school. And my wife was working as a teacher at that point. But I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad I didn't live in an apartment. I'm so glad I didn't pay rent to somebody else. I still think about that house fondly and I never have thought about that house as a bad decision. Because you buy something, you own it, and the rules typically in the United States and in Texas, it's always increasing in value. So, with that, we have been swimming with the sharks, Colby, and the water is awesome. The water is awesome. So we're going to do this a few weeks. I'm heading up to Maine. I think our next podcast will be filmed in the state of Maine on my island that I have in Maine. And we'll do maybe a little video of the island because it's super cool. It's on the coast of Maine. And we won't have a guest for that one, but the goal is when I get back from Maine to have our first cool guest where we can ask them some questions and riff with them a little while and listen to what they have to say. I wonder what kind of outro music we have, Robert. I bet it's pretty good. Robert knows all the good music. And so as we swim away, as the sharks swim away, all I can say is, hey, there's no time like the present. Make sure you are present, swimming with the sharks.